Everyone, I reloaded my Zoom because it was crashing every time we shared something, and then so it was a real problem. So hopefully we'll be over that now. Great. So how's Mexico going on? I mean, anything going on there other than sun and blue sky?
Well, it's interesting because I think there's a lot of news about Mexico about, crime activities.
Yeah.
And I was at the resort the other day and I was talking to a couple about that. And I said, so you live in LA, right? And they go, yeah, we live in LA. And I go, how many crimes happen in LA? And the husband looked at me and went, that's actually kind of a good point.
Yeah, well, I did see a news report recently about the crime issue.
Yeah.
And the sorry, I was cutting out there, but I saw a report on that, and so the news guy said, "Oh yeah, there's areas in Mexico that are red and yellow as defined by the State Department, but then he goes, but here's Europe, and he shows all of Europe, and it's all yellow. Europe is all yellow for terrorist activity and so forth.
Hey, I want to see these graphs because when I meet, so like I have a hard time getting my family to come visit me and stuff, and it's for that very reason. And I'm like, even Denver has a lot of crime. So
yeah,
it's just you're just careful who you hang out with, I guess. That's
right.
I'll just put that politically correct.
Yeah, definitely want to be there's good and bad people everywhere. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And anything can happen at any time. Like, you just have to just, be vigilant of your surroundings too. And sometimes the people are like, oh, well, I just got drunk in this alleyway that all the locals told me not to go down and something happened. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oops, I had
have to
yeah, too many margaritas and I was tripping down the street and I wonder why I got robbed and
right.
My passport and everything's gone. I wonder why. And I actually have a friend that happened to last week.
No. Hi, Daniel. Good to see you out here, or not see you, but hear you or read you. Good to read you.
Yeah.
Hi, Howard.
Hi there.
Morning, Howard.
Morning. Look at Sam in his short sleeve shirt.
I know. And it looks just so airy there, like the sun shining through the window, just so glorious.
Yes, it's a short life, so we have to spend it in places where we love.
That's
absolutely
perfect.
Yes. So, all right. Well, I'm excited about this topic today. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes and talking about.
I'm sorry.
Oh no. Go ahead, Char.
No, I mean, I like this topic. It's really the foundation of where we started, and it's been such a pleasure having so many wonderful guests and experts in the field. And I think today will be really nice because I think it's a collection of us talking about some really important talent management topips. So right. Yeah, this will be exciting.
Yeah, when you think about the overall journey over the past few years, I think we're over 200 episodes now. It's quite a lot. So
isn't that incredible? When we first started this, we never would have thought we would have been over 200 episodes.
Wait for the movie.
The movie.
Watch us all age and our hair color changes.
Sorry about the spoiler, but I'm just going to say the book's better than the movie.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Is this the big announcement for the book today? I don't want to like spoil it. That's why I'm like.
I'm not giving away any spoilers.
Spoiler.
But I got a big mouth, I get excited about things, so I don't want to. I'm like, this is your stage today.
That's right. Always fun. Okay, well, we're about there. Let me go ahead and get things kicked off.
That's time.
Here. And I'm going to start our multicast. Perfect. And you're all set to go there, Jules.
Awesome. All right. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for hopping on today. This is the People Strategy Forum. My name is Jules. We're really excited to have you here, whether it's your first time or like we were just talking about, maybe your 200th time showing up. If so, like, what an athlete you are, showing up so consistently. We hope you're really getting a lot of value out of these sessions. We try to bring you as much value each and every week. The mission really is to energize, elevate your company and your employees. So every week we have different guest speakers, but today we're going to change things up a little. And we actually have Sam and Sumit speaking to us about creating work people love. So it's all about the workforce experience. You'll hear the workforce experience mentioned a little later because I heard along the grapevine it might be coming out as a book title. So I'll let them share a bit more about that in just a second. And if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, just drop any questions, comments, feedback in the chat. I'll be there just going through everything and throwing in the questions as they come in. And if you've never been to a People Strategy Forum and you're like, what is going on here? I just mentioned what our mission is and that we have different guest speakers and that it is very conversational. So we always like to hear from you, but we always have a panel of hosts as well. So let me introduce you to everybody else that's here. So we'll start off with Char. She is a former HR professional turned entrepreneur. She's a career coach. She's experienced in talent management as well as HR. And she's currently working on her next brand new big business venture down in Mexico, which is going to assist seniors. So it's a very awesome mission. It's going to help a lot of seniors and elderly. So very excited for her there. We also have Howard, who works with the team at CompTeam. He has had a very long career working in the corporate world, and he knows a lot when it comes to compensation. He's a real compensation pro. He's experienced in systems and strategies and helping companies, update all their software and move to more high-tech software so that they can have better compensation management. We also have Sumit, and these are all familiar faces to a lot of you, I know, but Sumit is a people strategist. He has helped many companies transform their human resources areas. He's helped with strategy, talent management, mergers, diversity and inclusion initiatives, so much. And then lastly, we have Sam, who is the founder and CEO of CompTeam, and CompTeam is a company that's been around for a couple of years now, and he knows everything when it comes to pay and talent performance, talent management. He really is a compensation expert, and I'm just very excited to dive into this topic today because there's actually a book that's coming out, but I'm gonna pass it over to Sam and Sumit so that you can find out more about that. And take notes. Again, any questions, put them in the chat, and I'm gonna pass it on over to you guys.
Great, thanks, Jules. And just to I guess the big mystery, we've been talking about it, but over the years, Sumit and I have been working on putting together a lot of different talent messages about how to create the overall workforce experience, a workforce experience that attracts the best people out there, retains your top performers, and motivates your company overall, your people that you have. And so I'm excited to announce that over in the next few months here, in this next quarter, we'll be releasing the workforce experience as a book and also a series of workshops that go with that and how to create an exceptional workforce experience. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that in detail. There's about 12 different areas here to kind of dive into. And so we're going to go through this a little bit in detail today. But as we start out, I know that part of the reason why we thought that this book was really important to write is myself as a compensation professional, I've noticed that getting pay in a competitive range is not enough, for companies. they need to have a whole ecosystem that supports reasons why we should be there as employees and leaders and so forth. And it's not going to, anything that you do as far as compensation is just going to be a Band-Aid, a short-term fix on your issue unless you have the rest of the workforce experience dialed in. So I know that I've been talking with Char and Howard about this concept for years. And Char, you've been able to use a lot of these concepts in alignment with the TMA method in your businesses. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciated CompTeam support and evaluating our compensation practices to assure that we were in alignment from a compliancy standpoint, because the industry that my company was in was very much about making sure that you're compliant. I'll just put it that way. And then integrating the talent management TMA concept into that was a very highly effective approach with a full talent management strategy with career architecture in alignment with it. And ultimately, we were becoming a multi-million-dollar company as a result with less than 30 employees. So we were kind of like a mini test. We were like, what do you call it? Test pilot.
Yeah, that's right.
And it actually really worked. And so I'm proud to say thank you, Sam, and CompTeam for all your support in that. That was a great process.
So Sumit, so tell me a little bit about your perspective on the workforce experience and why it's so important today.
I think that's a great question. And the reason why it's important is because we keep hearing about culture becoming such a buzzword. There are talks about renaming HR to people and culture to just underscore the importance of culture. But culture isn't a process. Culture is a destination. It's an aspiration that you're trying to get to. And so you can't really build culture. What you can do is you can create a workforce experience. You can have all those components lining up in order to build a great culture. But sadly, that's not what gets spoken of in most conversations. We're only talking about building culture, creating culture, without actually realizing what are the pillars that contribute to culture, what are their own components, and what exactly do we need to do to get there.
Perfect. And so let me just talk a little bit about some of the main pieces that we're going to be focusing on today and kind of walking through these in detail. So the first is when we're looking at all the factors of bringing people together, we've identified three as being really important. One is how do we motivate people? And this could be motivating people to join your organization. It could be to have them perform and contribute at your company, and so forth. So there's a lot of elements around motivation there. The next is engagement, and how do we ensure that people have everything they need to do their best work? How do we keep them on top of their game as they're a part of the organization? And then those reward elements. How do we recognize and ensure that pay is appropriate? How do we create all that important culture that's going to create a compelling workplace? So we're going to talk about all those elements. So the first thing here to think about is when we're looking at vision as a top piece. And so what I like to explain here, and when we're talking about vision, is it's important to ensure that we have our leaders come out and they set up a very clear story about what the company stands for and where they're heading, where they're going with that organization. So this is the kind of the mission and vision overall. And the reason why this is important is because people nowadays in our modern workforce, want to do more than just earn a paycheck. They want to be part of an organization that stands for something, that that has a clear path forward, and so it's an important to make sure that this is well crafted. What do you think about that, Sumit?
I completely agree. And I mean, you know, I'm fond of examples from sports. Sports people at the highest level are among the best paid professionals. But have you ever just seen them happy to take their paycheck and go back home? Or you see them talking about, I'm moving from this club to that one because I want to win trophies. I want to go to a place that has a plan. And I think that's exactly what vision is all about.
That's right. You know, making sure that there's that story in place. And you know, there's a lot of things that happen. I mean, first thing we see is that there's a need in the marketplace, right? When a company is trying to fill a specific need. And the next is ensuring that they have a plan to fulfill that. Now, one of the stories I like to talk about is, and because I love history, but when we think about this in the past, as far as people migrating to the new world, right? If you look back in history, there was a time when we discovered the Americas, and there was a drive to go over there and explore them and see what this new opportunity is. Just like there was a lot of things that happen today, such as the onset of AI or machine learning, things like this. So there's this new opportunity, but that gets people excited. And so there needs to be a vision that's put in place of what that opportunity delivers. You know, is this new sense of freedom, for instance, and the Americas, a plan for the future where you can be your own person, your own boss, and not be overly regulated. So that was very compelling during that time. But the next thing that required that is leadership, and let me tell you why. So if you're a person that is thinking about taking on a boat to go to the new world, and especially back in those days where, you know, it wasn't as easy as hopping on a jet, right, to fly from one continent to another. There you were going to be faced with a long journey, a long boat journey on a ship, right? And so if you go down to the port and see a bunch of ships down there, and you know, they all look the same, right? But they're all going to take you to this new world. So which one do you select? Well, that's where leadership comes in. So that I would, if I was in that position where I wanted to jump on a boat and take a couple-week journey over to the Americas, I would want to ensure that that boat is sound, that it's going to stay afloat during rough seas, right? That there is going to be a captain that can guide or pilot that boat effectively through those rough seas and keep everyone together as a crew at the same time and not have a mutiny on the way, right? So ensuring that we have trust and leadership is quite important. And I don't think that we think of that often in our daily lives and how important that is. But our candidates out there are looking for that trusted leader, and that they want to work for a company that is responsible, that has leadership in the past, and they want to be a part of that. What do you think, Howard?
Yeah, what I was thinking before is it's important to capture both head and heart of the employees. You know, you want to get, you know, the vision out. You want to have it filtered through the organization. You want people buying in, and it's not just a one and done kind of thing. It has to be, you know, permeated throughout the organization and just a constant in the organization. You know, so many companies spend time creating a vision and posting it on the wall and creating nice brochures, and then that's it. But if you don't have the leadership buying into it and filtering it down to the employees, and employees also understanding and buying in, you've kind of lost it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I think that's really important, is that those leaders are providing they're not only demonstrating the values of the organization, but they're communicating effectively on why they're important.
Mm-hmm.
right? And what this, how they're aligned to where we're going, and they're creating that strategic vision of how to get there. You know, I mean, and that takes us to the next point here is the direction, effective direction. But this, as we're looking at what leaders' responsibility are, those that in the executive team, they're thinking about this strategic and a multi-year approach. And so how are we going to achieve what we're setting out for? But then when we're starting to push that down into the organization, depending on how big your organization is, your managers become a very important part of that. So your managers need to be trained up. They're dealing with people directly, and their leadership and dealing with those people directly is quite important. So as an example here, I have a lot of companies come to me and they say, "Hey Sam, we need a bonus plan. We have base pay and our people, our candidates are saying that they want a bonus, you know, where they had in their previous firm, or they expect that to be part of the compensation package. So we need one too." And one of the first things I ask them is, well, how do you measure performance? How do you measure competence? You know, so if you don't have the ability to effectively give people direction on what they need to do from day to day, then it's difficult to be able to measure performance and to reward a bonus based on that performance. So one of the pieces here is to ensure that your managers are trained up well and that they can communicate effectively to their people overall.
So, may I interject at this point too? I feel that when we talk about the employee role, the direction and the vision and the leadership, I believe that companies really need to focus on those one-on-one conversations with their employees and really get that employee input about the vision and the direction, and give the employee the opportunity to manage up and give feedback to the upper leadership about their perspective of the direction and the vision. Because if you don't have those opportunities for true, authentic conversations with your employees to get that feedback in the direction the organization is going, it's going to lead to high levels of disengagement. And hey, they don't care about my opinion, and don't all these weird posters on the wall with pretty pictures, as Howard indicate, don't mean anything to me. And gosh dang, my leader never even reviewed my job description with me, and the fact that my job description is not even the job that I do today. Because when I got hired, first, they never even let me see my job description. Secondly, now my job has changed and I've taken on all these different new accountabilities, including new technologies. And the leader never really got my own perspective about, direction, vision, and leadership. So the leader really needs to engage in that employee conversation. And it can't just happen during the performance evaluation once a year.
Right.
And my organization's really focused on that every single week, one-on-one with every employee in a coffee, or, somewhere that's not in the manager's office, somewhere maybe outside by the park or by a tree, or somewhere away from the work environment, to really have a nice, authentic conversation with the employee. So I just want to speak to that because I think it's a vital part of your talent management process.
No, I think that's really important there, Char. And one thing I want to highlight on what you said is that often the executive leadership team thinks that, okay, we have a once a year, we're going to reach out and we're going to talk to our people about where we're heading, what's important, what are the vision and mission and our values, and where we're heading strategically. And they think that one and done is enough. Or maybe they do it more frequently on those quarterly sessions, thinking that is sufficient. But I would argue that we need to pass this off to our management team for those one-on-ones to keep our people updated on what is happening and across the organization on those one-on-one meetings. So where, for instance, where is leadership today? What are they working on? And how are they moving us forward based on what we heard on our last all hands meeting? You know, so these one-on-one sessions doesn't always have to be just on employee performance or how are you doing or enablement. It's also part on ensuring that our people are well communicated with and understand what we're doing strategically as leaders. So I think that's a great point. The next thing that brings up here is teamwork. And teamwork is interesting because different companies have different elements of teamwork. You know, we all are part of an organization, and so we're in a sense part of a team. But some positions work really closely with others, and some may not. So it's important for the company overall to communicate effectively on what it means to be a team at your particular organization and how the team works together. So if we look at this from a recruiting perspective and attracting talent, people want to know that they're not sitting on an island alone, right? And if you're hiring them to do a job and they feel like they're going to be doing something, it's a little bit of a stretch for them. They're not a professional in that role yet. They want to know if there's going to be other people that are on their side. They're going to help mentor or help coach them or help them develop and show them the way as we can in a team. What do you think about that, Sumit? Do you have anything to add there?
Definitely. I mean, I find this a very, very interesting graphic overall because leadership provides the vision, which then translates into the direction, which then passes it back to leadership to make sure that we're staying true to the direction. And the responsibilities, of course, are twofold, where employees have to do certain things, the leadership or the employer, they've got to do certain things. And teamwork's in the middle because it's like the glue that holds everything together. So you'd find leadership, vision, and direction at odds with each other if it weren't for teamwork holding this entire bit together.
Right,
Yep.
and when we look at this overall, I mean, Char, can you give us some examples when, what happens when teamwork is not there? You know, there's situations where you have a whole process, but then if somebody is dropping the ball or is not being accountable, or the team is not working well together, I mean, what are the things that we have to watch out for as leaders?
Well, it's interesting. I think in the top, one of the topics in recent discussions, we were talking about the overall organization being like an organism.
Yeah.
And like a biological organism where, if your heart isn't beating correctly and the veins aren't working and all of those functionalities of the system aren't working well, that teamwork is going to hinder the company's success. As a talent management strategist, you really need to look at the overall organization, not only from what each department is doing and if they're working well better together, as I always say, and then also within each department, if there's so much bureaucracy and politics and undermining and fear of losing my job or I don't feel valued and respected and so is always trying to compete with me. It can be very, very complex. And I would say if you have a good talent management strategist or a people organization who really take the time from a psychology perspective to evaluate those dynamics and why this team is not working well better together, teamwork is being extremely dysfunctional, it's not going to just be a employee survey that's going to solve that. It really needs to be a pure analysis of what really is going on behind the scenes. It's kind of like a family dynamics. We know that in our families, sometimes you have the responsible daughter or son who seems to try to keep the family together. And it's the mom that's trying to make sure Easter happens or Hanukkah happens or any of the celebrations for the family to keep the family together. And there's usually a champion, a cultural champion. And no, it's not just HR.
Mm.
There are cultural champions in every department, in every organization. I think a good talent strategist needs to find that tribe of the cultural champions in every single department, and then effectively orchestrate those individuals to pull everyone together. I get chills when I talk about this stuff, but it's so important. So that's what I think.
For sure. Thanks, Char. And Howard, I know that you have been a leader of many teams in your career. And when it comes to ensuring that they have proper expectations and people are delivering the right quality and so forth, what really helps with orchestrating the team so that they're delivering or they're being accountable?
I think it's communication, both on a team level and individual level. So it's, frequent meetings with the team as a group, but equally important is getting to know your individual team members and talking to them, and not just about work, but understanding them, they come to work as a whole person. So we can't divorce, what else is going on in their life from just the work experience. So it's important to really stay on top of those things and have those conversations.
Good points. And I know I just want to tap in to you, Jules, as well, because I know in your profession, and we're thinking about being in front of the camera, a lot of this stuff is going on live, right? And we're thinking about we have to rely on people to do their role effectively, and so it doesn't mess up the performance. And so, what is your perspective of teamwork in live environments like that?
I mean, you really have to trust the people you're working with, because it's a collaboration. Being on set is, I mean, a good set. I mean, I've been on sets where there's a little unprofessionalism, little drama, but for the most part, it's been really professional, a really collaborative, supportive environment, because crew understands that like it is hard being in front of a camera, and it's nerve-wracking, especially when you're live, and mistakes can happen live, and you just have to all trust each other, work together, really collaborate, and also I feel like on set there's no one really has that mentality of, well, that's not my job. Everyone understands that we're here for a greater goal. Our goal is to have this show finished and done within a certain time frame and budget, so everyone's working towards the same thing. And if you have a good leader, director, producer, assistant directors, if they're all working together really well, really starts at the top, everything just flows a heck of a lot better. But yeah, I think it really just comes down to working towards that same goal, having that same mission, collaborating, and just really trusting your team and being able to trust your team, which kind of I saw Daniel wrote a point. It's sometimes hard to actually share things because people have a fear. So that's where I feel like you really have to trust who you're with, trust that they're going to get the job done. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to speak to that point, but I thought that was.
Yeah, Jules, I am intrigued about that. I have not. I used to work in drama. Well, I was a little drama girl in high school. Are you surprised? But I haven't really acted, and I have really been hearing a lot about that, the equality aspect of acting changing. We always talk about diversity of the actors, also the equality, for example, in compensation and reward for female actors, actresses, and so I'm pleased to hear that you feel that. I guess I know you're a little bit younger than some of us here, but what is your perspective about the history in the acting profession, and how equality and team and respect for different roles and what's your perspective about how that's improved over the last, several decades? I mean, what do you think about that, Jules?
I mean, I think it's definitely changing. I think there's still more that can be done, but I think it is starting to go in that right direction. I think people are like, I mean, the Oscars is one thing. I mean, it was a very diverse group of people that won all those awards, not just in like ethnicity, but age as well. So I think it's starting to change. It's definitely, I even see it in casting notices. Now they want, it's just, casting notices have definitely changed. It's definitely more open to greater groups of people. Like I'm seeing things for like amputees, for example, like other like other able-bodied people. What else? Obviously like the trans community, like things are just opening up more to different groups of people. So I do see it shifting, and I think entertainment is such a influential industry in society. So I think, you need that representation. So it's starting to shift to definitely in a better direction. And I think more people are starting to see themselves through these actors. They're like, oh, I'm Latino, I can relate to this character, or like, I'm in a wheelchair, I can relate to this character on this show. So it's branching out slowly but surely.
Yeah,
One final comment, I'll just say that I made a post the other day about a shout out to 80 for Brady, right? Because it was four sports women that were really excited about Brady, and they all got to go to the Super Bowl. So it wasn't even so much about women going to a football game and then going to the Super Bowl, but it was about 4 beautiful aging women in their golden years. And so anyway, that's just an example. And I'm so pleased to see that that field is changing.
I think also too, a lot of people, the reason that change has also come about is a lot of people just kind of were like, well, you know what, you don't want me, then, screw this, I'm going to go out and create my own work, or like take creative control of the situation. And I'm going to, if you're an Asian creator, I'm going to hire more Asian actors and put them in my film, and like, let's get our like representation going for, for us. So I feel like it's people are just also taking matters into their own hands, because it's, when something's not working, if you're trying to please these higher ups that sometimes they just want the same old thing because it's a formula, and that formula has worked for so long, and if it's not broken, why fix it? It's that kind of mentality. So it's nice to see that people are like, okay, well, if you don't like the way I am, or if you don't want to hire me for whatever reason, I'm going to go out there and create the work myself, and hire others like me, or open it up to other people. So, it is more inclusive. So I think that's also been a big part of the shift, just taking that control back and not being like, please hire me. It's more like, okay, what can we do? What can we create that's going to change things up? So.
Yeah. So the onset of technology and the social movement around trust and humanity has really broken down a lot of barriers, and it's easier for people to come in, new entrants to come in and offer things than ever before. So it's important for us to realize that we need to create a brand as a business that attracts the people that we want, that attracts the clients that we want, because that brand, or being unique, is what's going to protect our company and going to make our people happy in the future. And so that, like you mentioned, I think both you and Char, Jules, mentioned the concept of trust. And when we think about getting work done, and we can trust in others, but if our colleagues and ourselves are not enabled to do our best work, because we don't have the infrastructure as a business, we don't have the right computers or technology in place, there's not enough resources or time to get things done effectively, or the people that we've hired don't have the right talents to be able to get things done effectively. So there's a lot of things around enablement here. If we're not enabling our people to be effective, then it's difficult for us to have that trust in the overall system. So that's why it's important, Char, as you mentioned earlier, these one-on-ones that we have with our people, having those regular discussions to ensure that we're removing obstacles as managers so that they can do their best work. And we're trying to look forward and address any roadblocks that are coming our way so that they are able to be as productive as possible and what they're doing. So we're removing those issues before they become issues. So I think
Right.
that
Well, I would call that a leader's role is to break down those barriers to each employee's success.
Mhm.
And I perceive some leaders look at their role as kind of a status thing, oh my gosh, I'm a vice president of, XYZ, and I get to sit at the executive table, when more time should be spent breaking down the barriers to each employee's success. Think about the number of hours per week that you're doing that. Think about the number of obstacles your employees are having, and what are you doing to achieve breaking that down? If you're the head of the OR department, or the head of materials management, and you see another department not doing their job, such as let's just say HR, or let's just say those in the cleaning departments, that they call them all kinds. If there are barriers, or IT, sorry, IT people, but sometimes our employees can't get their computers fixed because they forget that all you need to do is turn off and turn on your computer. And instead of laughing at the person that forgets that if they could turn off and turn off their computer, it's as simple as an easy phone call, and I don't have to sit on hold for, an hour and a half to get your help. That is a barrier to success. And so I think that is a big aspect that leadership needs to think about, and coordinating with the other departments to help every employee in their own unit to be as successful as they can be.
That's great. Good feedback there, Char. And then one other thing that I have to mention here, as far as empowering others, this really has to do with the strength of the management position. And so I don't know how many times I've heard of companies come to me and say, oh, well, this person is really good at their job as an individual contributor, so I want to make them a manager. Well, the thing is that a manager is a completely different job, right? It's not being an expert in that particular domain discipline, whether it be engineering or project management or anything. It's about knowing how to guide and lead and care for the people in your care, right? So it's many companies fail by putting people into management positions that have no experience, have no knowledge or understanding of what management is all about. And I think that's one of the biggest failings that I've witnessed in US companies. What do you think, Sumit?
Not only the US, Sam, I think it's a global phenomenon. And by doing this, you're failing on multiple fronts as a leader. One, of course, you're losing a perfectly good, productive employee from the position that you're promoting from. You're building a relatively incapable or a less competent manager and setting them up for failure. In addition, you're not doing justice to your responsibility as a leader who's expected to execute on certain organizational goals, because there's no way you're getting there with this kind of a philosophy. And when you hired those great, talented people, that's not what you signed them up for. So instead of setting everyone and the organization up for failure, this really needs to change.
Agreed.
And I mean, I see it everywhere, and I see it a lot more often in the developing nations, because we've been growth markets traditionally, and therefore we expect that if you're not getting promoted every 2.5 years, there's something drastically wrong with you. And so managers feel pressured to promote their team members when they're just not ready.
So another thing I'd like to bring up as far as that really creates a compelling workplace is showing success or enabling success in a way. So and I call this impact. So impact has a lot of different meanings here. One is when we are allowing people to do their best work. It's important for them to see their work take hold in the organization. How does it impact the customer or the client? Is it being released? So can they see that alignment? So this is really important to ensure that when we are putting these important projects in place, we're helping those projects see the light of day. Nothing is more demotivating to a professional to work so hard for months and months and months on putting an initiative together only to see it canceled at the last minute or never see the light of day, right? What was the purpose of all I did in the past few months if the work I do now never gets in front of the client? So that can be very, very demotivating, right? And another thing is that in the same light of what can be demotivating is if we reach out as leaders or employers and we ask our people what they think, and then we take no action, right? So that's another area where they feel like they have no impact, where that's a disconnect. So this is an area where we need to be really careful of. And the other related here, where I commonly see this as an issue, is when employees feel like they have no voice, that they if they see a problem with how the company is addressing issues with customers or clients, and they inform leadership, and leadership doesn't listen, right? So that's an area where they feel like they have no impact in the role. So what do you think about this, Char?
Absolutely. So being part of very big, large organizations, a lot of change happens very oftentimes. They say that the executive levels for example, in healthcare turn over every 5 years. It's very common in healthcare for the executive turnover. Therefore, a lot of system projects and system initiatives and visions and projects that ultimately filter down throughout the organization. I saw a lot of wasted hours of, like your earlier point, of employees that were put on planes and flying, 50, 60 employees coming together to put together a system initiative and spend, 6 months to 7 months putting together that system initiative. And next thing you know, we have a new executive, and the new executive says, well, at such an XYZ company, we didn't do it that way. And it was absolutely shut down. And the employees would get very disgruntled and say, why do you have me on all these system teams and systems initiatives just to change them overnight? And so all this work, which not only have I been trying to do my normal job, I'm trying to do my own job here, and you keep sending me off to meetings and sending me off to build things and do things and collaborate with other companies, and no regard for backing me up on my job back at home to be on all this system work. So I think all of this is, yes, as it says here, when a leader delegates that authority and a leader really integrates their team members to do these initiatives, really look at the balance of hours and really look at the pacing of what the employee is able to accomplish and do their normal work and do part of those system initiatives. So leadership as it says, needs to interact and be very mindful about these initiatives, and also assure it doesn't constantly change. The employees would always call it the flavor of the month. Employees get tired of the flavor of the month. That is the system initiative that changes month to month to month. And my HR colleagues know exactly what I'm talking about.
No kidding. Thanks, Char. So the next thing that we need to think about for our people is also aligning personal values. Now, this is a big concept when we're talking about hiring the right people to work at your organization. So we want to make sure that the people that come into the organization, their values are aligned with the values of the rest of the organization. And so that's the main reason why we are communicating our core values, is to ensure that we're in alignment. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't have a diverse workforce. Everybody may look at these values in a different way, in a way that brings their own experience. But the important part is that we're using our values to go in a direction, that strategic direction that we pointed out earlier, that mission and vision, right? So this is a core area to ensure that we want to make sure we're aligned on those values. And then also the other piece here is in ensuring that our people are engaged, is to ensure that they are going to be fulfilled in their work. So what do we mean by this when we're talking about fulfillment? Well, imagine you start at an organization and you are single, right? You don't have a spouse or even a girlfriend or a boyfriend yet, right? So life is different from you than some other.
Even a dog. Don't forget,
Yeah.
they don't even have a dog.
Don't even have a dog. It's such a sad story. But the point is that you might be really engaged during that time. You might be dedicating a lot of your time to work and development and so forth. But then you meet that special person, right? And things are starting to change. Your priorities are changing. And so now perhaps you're thinking about having a family and so forth. And now instead of driving or charging ahead in your particular role, you're thinking about more of creating that important nest egg and so forth. So you can see we all are going through these moments in our life, you know, whether it's finding a spouse or having a family or taking care of an aging loved one. You know, there's different parts of our career that require flexibility and change. And so does your current employer provide the flexibility to go through these different life changes that you're experiencing? And so that's important to consider.
Well, I have an example of where I had an employee that was a director and had literally like 40 to 50 employees under his belt. And tragically, he had a bicycling accident, an avid bicycler. So he's wheelchair bound. When I hired him, I was proud to do so, even though I had to go through the ADA process of accommodating, for example, a computer that he could use with one hand, and assuring that we had drawer pulls so that he could pull the drawers open. But as health advocates, this was very, very important. But he also needed to have a work schedule to accommodate all his doctor appointments. So we really had to modify when he was working, how he was working. In fact, we made him a manager of compliance in my company. And then also assure that he could still work around his doctor schedules. So yes, it can mean any stage in life, but it also could mean any types of people. But I think we have to be creative, as Jules talked about, and really look at ways to accommodate people at different stages in life, including some of the tragic ones that happen to our employees.
Right. And this is all part of our culture overall. I mean, the amount of flexibility that we're bringing. But when we talk about culture here at CompTeam, I am specifically encouraging companies to think about a purposeful culture. You know, what is your culture about? It's not about just the what's going on a daily basis, but how can leaders create a culture of that means something to their organization, such as innovation or of customer service. Now, what is your strategic advantage that you should be driving your culture around and creating initiatives for that? So I think that's super important. Now, Sumit, I know you're a culture guy. So tell me what your impression of culture is.
That's a very tough question. I think we'll need a couple of hours to discuss more about that, Sam. But jokes aside, I think the simplest definition of culture is just the way we do things in a particular organization. And what the pandemic has taught us is that the culture is not the soda machines or the ping pong tables in your office. Culture is not restricted to the four walls of the office building. It's more about how do you really treat each other? How do you really treat people? How do you enable them to succeed? And I think it's become a lot more of a democratic process. Like all the previous slides have had the employee's role and the employer's role. So it's not only a top-down process to create culture. There are lots of places where, as employees, we've got the space to provide feedback. We need to take charge of certain things. Of course, being lower in the hierarchy means there are, I mean, we can't really move the world on all these parameters, but employees and employers need to work together to create the right kind of culture which powers the right workforce experience and vice versa. So the entire employee experience and the culture piece, they have to constantly play off each other and support each other in building what's called a virtuous cycle, which is the opposite of a vicious cycle.
Right. Great. Thank you, Sumit. And another piece of culture is these other two concepts that we're going to be talking about. How you feel about employee development, you know, and that's a big reward element. People will work at certain places that help them develop and help their career develop overall. And then in addition to understanding just the development piece, being recognized for your contributions is incredibly powerful. And it's one of the most inexpensive ways of rewarding a workforce. I mean, simply getting our managers to say thank you is a major a major hill to climb in many organizations and cultures. Just giving that simple thanks can mean hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of compensation spent. Just having those types of behaviors in your management. And then finally, last but not least in a way, it's important to make sure that our pay and our benefits are within a competitive range. Now, one thing that we need to keep in mind here is that when we're talking about compensation and benefits, those need to be at a certain level in an organization for the rest of this to occur, and the rest of and for pay and benefits to be actually motivational. The rest of the workforce experience needs to be in place as well. So let me break that down again. So you need to have pay and benefits in a competitive range before the rest of the workforce experience can happen. For instance, if we don't get paid anything and we can't support our family adequately, then we're not going to be able to work at that provider. Even if we love the job, we have to do a different job because we need to have, you know, pay and benefits at a certain level for us to survive and support our family. But once again, if we want to perform well in our organization, we need to have a positive culture. We need to have appropriate development. We have to have leadership that knows where they're going and that we trust, and have managers that enable the process and give direction. We need to be able to, at a workplace where it's going to grow with us and provide us that personal value and flexibility for us to thrive. And so all of the rest of the workforce experience is very important for us to excel as an organization. So I think that's critical for us to put together. So as we look at this as a whole, and there's a lot of pieces in the book, The Workforce Experience, that we are discussing. We go through each of these different elements: vision, leadership, direction, teamwork, empowerment, impact, all these things, and that need to be harnessed at a certain level in all organizations to be able to be successful and strive and achieve what we're trying to achieve in our vision. Anything to add there, Sumit? Like
No, I
cover
think that covers pretty much everything, Sam.
All right, well, I know we just have a few more minutes, Jules. Any questions or anything that we can take from the audience?
So far, no, it's a little quiet in the chat today, but we need to know where we can get this book. Come on, guys, promote. Don't be shy now.
Yes.
Let's push it.
So as I mentioned, the book is in its final stages right now. I mean, I know Sumit is working on crafting his infographics to fit in there. So we are about to release that in the next 2 months, and we'll be talking much more about that on the People Strategy Forum in different ways. But also in a couple months from now, we'll be, in addition to releasing the book, we'll be having a workshop that we're going to be talking about the best ways to harness all of this, and then have coaching sessions on how to get through each of these pillars, such as
Right.
developing a compelling vision, and how do you ensure that you're instilling trust as a leader, and as managers, how do you drive direction and ensure you're getting the good cohesion in your team and so forth. So a lot of stuff.
I just have to make a quick comment, not to interrupt you. When I was a talent management strategist for a system, this particular slide right here that you have up right now, I think this would have been perfect to have on the wall in the executive team and also in the HR department or your people strategist of the company. I think this particular slide is very nicely done, and it breaks it down into each of those pillars, because I think their HR executives are kind of lost at times to show a visual to really help the executive team understand what to do with the people side of the business. So nice job. I think that's a great, and I also look forward to the book. I think employers are going to really appreciate all of these tools and resources.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you for that, Char. So I know we're at the top of the hour here, so I do want to acknowledge our next week's speaker. We're going to have Marty that's joining us, and Marty is she's such a pleasure because she's a practitioner of the TMA method that is from the Netherlands. And last year she moved to San Francisco with her husband, who is starting up a new life there. And so she has a very unique perspective that she's going to bring and talk to us about. And she's going to share about the how it's different between the US culture and the European culture, and looking at talent and how to leverage talent appropriately given these different initiatives. Because we are in a way where we can bring in talent from across the globe now, especially with our technology and the way that we're leveraging the workforce. And so Marty is going to bring a lot of great value there. So come join us next week on the People Strategy Forum. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, and we'll have more to deliver next week as we speak to Marty. So thanks for joining us.
Bye all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank
now.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.